my name's Reagan.
I'm Callie.
And I'm Clara.
And welcome to our podcast. Today we are discussing a couple works from the Aegean period. A couple of things that we decided to pick out to discuss today were figures from the Cyclades, and then, what was the last one? Oh, the corbel arches. Awesome. So, can go ahead and just kick off with mine. I decided to sort of put a little bit of a background about the figures from the Cyclades. I'll just sort of read my little blurb here. It says, archaeologists call these figures Cycladic idols and picture them playing a central role in a religion focusing on a mother goddess. More recently, scholars have offered two other plausible explanations for their functions. Perhaps sculptors crafted them purely for funeral purposes, or to represent servants or surrogates for human sacrifices, or even for the body of the deceased. So there's obviously multiple different uses or potential uses for these figures. A couple of connections that I saw that I liked was we've already sort of discussed a lot of like Paleolithic era statues that were sort of handheld, and a lot of them also were, for similar things, for fertility or worship or funerary purposes. Some specific examples of this could be Woman of Willendorf or the Woman from Brass Symphony. And usually these are, like I said, feminine figures, handheld. And another one that's not necessarily handheld, but is a similar sort of area of usage is the statues from the Temple of Abu.
Yeah, I kind of talked a little bit about how they were just like kind of putting a focus and emphasis on the human body and the form of the human body. And they kind of like to focus on the proportions and the balance, and not necessarily like the details of those. I thought that they kind of connect to other later Greek statues by bringing just a calm and simple feeling to those kinds of like figures, rather than like making them super like detailed and crazy. And they're kind of like a prototype, basically, per se, of like the later Greek statues that are made, kind of like the Koros figures, which come later on.
Just listening to you talk about it, I think it's interesting that most of these figures from this period in history are all women and almost no men. And usually in a culture like that, I would assume that the men are the most powerful. They are like the head, they'll do the most in the society. And so it's interesting why they have these idols specifically for women. Is it because they just really appreciated the woman and like viewed them as almost a work of art? So like maybe almost.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to think about. And I don't really have an answer. I don't think anyone does.
No.
For sure, yeah. But that's a good point for sure.
Some contrast that I saw were, if we're comparing these to the other examples that I gave, so the Cycladic figures compared to the Woman of Willendorf or the Woman from Brass Symphony, they're completely opposite in style. Obviously, they're both stylized. I don't think either of these are a very realistic rendering of what a woman looks like. However, the Cycladic figures are very minimalist and sort of flat, with just like very little detail on it. And then if I'm thinking back to the Woman of Brass Symphony, she has this very textured hair, and she's a bit more 3D. Yeah, and I think really what this boils down to is that it's just representative of different cultures and what they value as in style, I guess. So.
Yeah, for sure. Another kind of example of like one that contrasts it was like the statue of Khafre, or the seated statue of Khafre, sorry. That statue itself is really detailed, and like it's kind of used to like show his power, and like there's a theme there of like his divine role kind of. And in these, it's more of like a simple, kind of like you were saying, like flat, not very much detail, very minimal. And just to kind of like, it kind of puts like a mysterious kind of spiritual like theme to them, rather than like a political view of whatever they're talking about, you know?
So a couple of modern day connections for the Cycladic figures. I think of a lot of people who sort of carry small religious items was the first thing that came to my head on like a daily basis. Like I think of people who wear crosses, or they have rosaries hanging around their dashboard rearview mirror, or I don't know, just like little tiny things. People still sort of carry that around depending on your religion, obviously. But then another thought came to me that it doesn't necessarily have to be, this is a bit more abstract, but I feel like this is not too far a reach. People carry figures on them that are not necessarily religious, but are representative of themselves and what they believe, I guess. And something that came to me was like a woman and her purse, or like her lipstick or her jewelry or whatever. And you're like, well, those are just everyday items. I'm like, well, no, like in the media, those are symbols of femininity. And I mean, who knows why women carry around fertility statues back in the day. But I mean, we obviously have women who walk around with these things to sort of exude a specific image, or to sort of have an air about them of femininity. So that's a connection that I saw. Yeah, that concludes my section, so we can sort of toss it over to Clara.
I did research and looked up on the corbel arches and the type of architecture that the Mycenaeans used. So the corbel arches were just stones stacked on top of each other in kind of a diagonal, like staggered position. And something that I connect to the modern day is that these structures have been standing for years and years, and they have nothing like tacking them together. There's no glue, there's no metal, there's no concrete. It's just stones on top of stones. Just pure like engineering know-how and science. And they were able to figure this out without all the advanced technology that we do nowadays. Like we over-engineer almost everything we do in the name of safety, which is very good. Like obviously safety's nice, but like many of our buildings have fallen down within just natural disasters or storms, or just not engineered well enough, and somehow these structures that had no advanced technology is outliving and outstanding our structures, which is just interesting to think about. You can tell that the Mycenaeans really put their trust in their materials, and that they really cared about the building. They put reliefs in their structures. Like the structure itself, the building, was the sanctuary. It wasn't what was inside of it. Like the building itself was an attest to the victory that they had. And kind of nowadays, we don't really care about what the building looks like or what it means, just like what's inside. That's the most important.
It's what's on the inside.
What's on the inside. It's like as long as the building looks shiny, clean, and new, it's very minimalist nowadays. It's not like a work of art. Not all buildings, but most buildings are.
I kind of, just like listening to you talk about that, it kind of made me think in my head like kind of about temples for us.
I was thinking the same
culture,
thing.
Right? Where we're like, it's kind of a mix of both, I think. Like they definitely try to make them look pretty for sure. But like I feel like that piece of like we worship the building itself, like we like have that we appreciate that kind of like sacred space that is the building itself, not necessarily what's inside of it. Like yes, what's inside of it is also a sacred space, but the building itself too is like there's a reverence around the building. Like even if you're just there like walking the grounds or something like that, like there's that reverence that kind of brings, that's kind of a cool connection to that. So.
Yeah, and you don't really see that anywhere nowadays.
Right.
So like when you were saying that, I was like honestly though, like I feel like most of the time it is for religious purposes then, and it is now. Like that's when we see some of the buildings or structures that are the most beautified, the most that has, it's just for like a respect purpose and for it to set it apart, I guess. And so, but it's interesting in this that you that we are bringing this up, because they're just like normal buildings. It's normal structures. Like, yeah, they probably built temples and stuff, but this is just literally an archway. Like it's not even a temple. So it makes you wonder, like did they just have a sacredness or a respect for everything?
They do eventually build treasuries and tombs with the corbels.
It's true.
And actually leading to connections to others, the Eastrian?
You've got it.
Yes. How do you guys say it? Please cut this part out, Reagan.
What
it's
is
just leading back to connections to others, Etruscan tombs.
Okay, editor's note. I believe she meant to say Etruscan. Continuing.
use this corbel entrances, and they've corbelled tombs, taking from the Mycenaean structures. And they obviously really trusted this corbel technique because just like all cultures, tombs and grave sites were really important to them. And they adorned it with lots of treasures and memories from their families. And so to trust that the corbel texture would not even hold up itself, but hold up the ground, that it was the ground was on top of it, earth and dirt was on top of it. They trusted that to be able to hold it, and it has, and it's still holding today.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think there's something really profound about like when you were sort of going back to like saying like how structures today sort of fail quickly, and I think a large part of that is due to just like hustle culture and like corporate America and get it done, make it quick, but then it doesn't last, and so I was gonna say there's something so profound about like making structures purely from the earth without going through too much of a refinement process, just raw,
On top of that, like they don't have a deadline they have to fill. They don't have a quota to fill. They probably spent a lot of time and care into building these tombs and making the corbel technique perfect.
Yeah.
Because what else did they have to do back then?
Right.
And obviously these are very the tombs are really important to them. So they spent a lot of time and thought into how it was being made.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we move on to contrasts. So just like how the corbel method is being used to stabilize a roof or an archway, I found that the Greeks used columns to hold up weight as well. So, they're used for the same thing, but obviously columns allow more space to enter temples, while the corbel needs the entire wall because it's just stones on top of stones, so it needs a lot. And although the Mycenaeans obviously appreciated their architecture, Greeks took it to a whole nother level. With these advancements, they were able to put even more reliefs, and the building didn't just represent the story in victory, but it told the story in the victory through the architecture, while the Mycenaean temples just represented it, and the Greeks told the story through the building, if that makes sense. I just thought that was really cool.
I kind of liked looking into them a little bit and just kind of seeing how maybe just looking at them from afar, from nowadays, you kind of seem especially compared to the Greeks, where they kind of seem like a primitive type building, but for their time, the idea, the creativity they used to create that engineering skill that had just never really been done before, at least not in the way that they did it. It was just kind of an ingenious idea of them to have, especially for that time where it's it doesn't seem like they would be very advanced in that kind of stuff that we can still use today and stuff like that. So it's cool to think of the Greeks getting that from that idea and pulling from it and being able to turn it into their own kind of thing.
Totally. That's all I have on my corbel arches.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our talk about our Aegean art, and thank you for listening.